It's about 7:30 in the morning. I got my coffee, but I am about to head out and do a lumber run. There's a guy in the area who runs a professional wood shop, and he is donating some of their cutoffs to the school. So let's go get that.
7.7 miles. Turn left onto Saxaby on Bethlehem Church Road.
Bunch of the lumber unloaded. I still have some stuff to unload, but a lot of it came from a place that builds a lot of high-end commercial stuff, and so they have a lot of cutoffs. And so what I've got right here is this giant pile of strips, and these are going to be fantastic for making cutting boards. So I've actually got some over here that I've already made, but we'll make a lot of these types of cutting boards here to help support the woodshop programs. Alright, so I'm trying to get this thing to slide nice and smoothly. You can see it's sticking a little bit right there, and I've sanded this bottom rail a little bit. It's still just not quite having it. What I'm going to do is actually I'm going to use some pencil lead, which oftentimes the graphite is almost like a dry lubricant. So I'm just going to put a whole bunch of pencil lead all over the side of this and see if that helps me out. Got that all covered up. This trick can actually work on sticky drawers if you've got some in your house that aren't working. There's still a little bit of catch right around there, but overall that slide is pretty good. So it is time to add our front and back fences here, and I'm actually not coming up with this design by myself. I'm using a video that I've got linked in the description that taught me how to do this, because I certainly have plenty to learn. I'm just now getting into this Kumiko style, and I really enjoy it, but I don't know a whole lot about it, so I'm having to learn as I go. Using a combination square here to transfer this lines across. So I don't have to measure twice here. Drilled out here. What I want to do is make sure that I get this fence nice and square, because I'm going to be using this to cut some square pieces later on. And so what I'm going to do here is line up this corner as best I can, and then I'm going to put one screw in and square the fence off of this line that was made by the blade. So the purpose of this sled is to cut little notches like these, and we're going to cut them like this, 90-degree angles, nice and square, and then we're also going to cut 60 and 45-degree angles, and I'll get to attaching those fences in a minute here. But what I need to do right now is make sure that this blade is cutting high enough for this piece, so it needs to get halfway through the piece so that when you assemble these, they sit nice and flush. You can see how nicely those really come together. Alright, so it's time to carry this line all the way through here, and these fences, this bit of material here is going to keep our sled together. One thing that I wanted to point out is I was very careful to make sure that this screw fell between these two lines. It's actually perfectly centered on the fence, which is quite nice, but you really want to make sure that you've got at least a ½ an inch of space, preferably more, but it's a little bit tight in here, and I wanted this section to be nice and sturdy. So I'm using the fence here as a nice reference right up against the edge of my sled right here, and then I'm using this 30-60 triangle just to mark these where these fences are going to go. Got these fences here screwed in, now we just got to cut the same groove as well. Close to being done here with the sled. I've added some 45-degree pieces as well that fit just inside these 60-degree fences. I do need to add screws in the center here to make sure that these stay nice and stable. But the issue with these 45-degree fences, because I added these after the fact, is if I line up a long piece here, you can see it's going to want to run over this corner right here. So I've actually marked where that is, and I'm going to use a Japanese pole saw. Hand saws typically have a couple different types of teeth, and you can see that these are just really, really tiny. And this pole saw means that it cuts only when you're pulling, not when you're pushing.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
It is just too nice outside today to work on this, so I'm gonna plug it out in the backyard here, get some sanding done. So we've got the island project all sanded up. It's getting ready for blow it off and get some finish on it. Kind of got a mini project going on here, so I need a shoe rack. That's probably going to be coming in here soon too, but I also needed a coat hanger. So I've got two sections of this here. Sorry about the dog next door. Got two sections right here, and what I'm doing with this is I've been using this combination square where you can set certain distances and just marking out the holes that I want to drill. And what these holes are for is if I flip this to the side, I'm going to have alternating pieces, these guys, they're going to get screwed on just like this. So it'll come away from the wall. You can stick your coat on there, so there'll be one here, then one on this side, and back and forth going all the way up. So it'll kind of look like a tree branch, and I've got two different sized ones so I can put them next to each other on a wall. Assembly time. So I've got all my parts sanded. I've got these guys set up here, and I'm going to be using the screws that actually come with the Craig jig. And the Craig jig is the pocket hole jig that I use. I often use the stepped bit that they've got, which is this guy right here, to countersink or counter bore, actually is the proper term, the screws in here. So the screw, as you can see right here, will fit just like that, and will stick out about a ½ inch because I really don't have a lot of material here to hit when I'm screwing through this side. And another thing that I want to do is, because I don't have much material, especially on this end right here, there's really not much there, is I want to mark this face and drill some little holes in there, just a little 1/16 hole, so that I don't split this piece when I drive a screw into it. Alright, so the way that I'm going to mark this face is I'm going to drive two of these screws partially into these holes here. So I am using an impact driver, which is probably a little bit overkill, but I can be nice and light on the trigger so that I don't just drive these screws through the piece of wood. And what I'm doing here with my finger on the bottom is just feeling the very tip of this screw come out. And you'll see I've got this little mark right here. That is to center this piece on here. So what I'm going to do is use this face as a reference so that I know that this is at the correct angle. And then I'm going to come up here and just line up the center of this piece with this mark. Make sure that I'm on the ground, and then just press into those screw tips. And now when I come away, I've got two marks right here. This slab is finally done. Got about 4 coats of polyurethane on here, so it's really nice and smooth here. So it is time to deliver this thing. We're going to be attaching some hairpin legs to this, so I gotta take some tools over to a friend's house.